In today's review, we have the All Engines Go Motorized Henry. So, first we will take this guy away and look at the box. I've kind of just made it a decision to not open them on camera. It's a hassle, and I don't think it really adds anything to the content. I'm not trying to do ASMR here. So, it's pretty good, generally. We got the Fisher Price at the top, Mattel at the bottom. You know, they've changed that a million times. It doesn't really matter. I think this is the best the Motorized style of box has looked, though I do wish it was called Trackmaster and not Motorized. You know, it's cooler, makes you think, yeah, you'll master the tracks with this. It's way cooler than Motorized. It's so bland and generic. Like, you would think of that as, like, some, I don't know, Toys R Us brand, like, if they had a knockoff of that. Okay, at the back here, we got the Look Out for All Engines Go show. Not going to be looking out for that anymore since it's over, kind of sadly. We got this really nice render of Henry. Not the newest. I think the newest has this be square and go all the way to the back, but that's the render that this toy is based off of. His names in all these different languages. I think that's Cyrillic. That is English. That's French. That might be Spanish. And I couldn't tell you what that is. But we've got all the warnings. It would be great if there was just, you know, the guys here. It doesn't generally have to be like the boxes that they come in, because sometimes they'll have a box. It's like, you know, like the box for the new Motorized stuff. One of them is Percy Thomas, AG Kana, and AG Diesel. They don't particularly have to do that. That would not bother me. It could just be like the big engines, or Henry, then the main characters, or like a few of them, you know, Diesel and Thomas. Whether you're actually going to find it there or not, it's still good, you know? Just put all the main characters. So that's really it for the box. It's nice. I haven't taken out the instruction manual yet, and I've kept it in pretty alright condition before I have to do it. Also, this render, you know, you see a little bit more of Henry there. You got the non-Stanier style tender, with that is like that with his AG counterpart. And I will get onto the engine now, so we'll just put this a bit in the back because I will have been referring back to it. So here is Big Green himself, Henry. Come on, look at that guy. So, I don't have anything here to compare it to. This is honestly probably the first Henry toy I've owned that isn't minis. But I will start with the tender, since it's pretty generic. It's just like the James tender. Pretty good. I prefer them over the Trackmaster 2 tenders. They are neat. I like the coal loads in them a whole lot. That is very, you know, it's easy to remove. You just need a pair of scissors and you can undo the latch. You got these, which I wish on the front it was cut out so you could kind of have like a driver there, which is something that I will customize it to do, but they don't have drivers in AEG, so not a complaint. The 3 is very nice. The lining, mine isn't misprinted all, maybe a little too far on the left here, and this side maybe a little too far on its left. So if it's on both, it's probably just how they are. The back, I really hate this coupler. I always have since it was made, but you can do pretty easy conversion, which I will be doing a tutorial on probably when I make my customization video of this guy into a CGI version of Henry. But yeah, the tender, pretty stock standard. Doesn't make sense for him to have a Stanier tender here because it's just not part of him. Chassis black, running boards red. I do like the red running boards. That has never bothered me on merchandise. I think it actually looks pretty good. My main problem with the new running boards on the new classics is that they look too wide, but this, because they're not running boards, they're just the chassis. But with this is the chassis, this is the running board. So really my only problems with it is it having front buffers and a front buffer beam. But it doesn't totally bother me that they are there, because now going over to Henry has the wrong buffer. It's just for Henry in general. So if you were to customize this into a CGI Henry, you can take the buffers from this, a coupler from Gordon, and then update alter the front a bit. But Henry, here's where most of the problems lie. He looks like his counterpart, like his AEG version. But there's a lot about him that is pretty odd. The width of the Trackmasters don't leave room for windows on the side, which I think maybe some of them should have the width extended, like Henry, Gordon. Edward's really thin, so he should be thin. James, depending on how, like the AG James is fine. He doesn't need to be thicker, but the new James, he could use a little thickness. So he's not so tall and fat, so it kind of like spreads out a bit. But him, he could definitely use some, so he could have those windows. And one of the problems here is that the cab doesn't go all the way to the back. We can see here on the box that it shows it hanging over quite a bit, but if they just brought this back even further, then they could have we'll swap this over to the other side, the big square, cutout over here, and still have it just be more accurate. They have the room, they could do it. It would just mean that the switch goes even less into the cab, which when it's open and it goes like that, it's pretty boring, And then that's about it for the cab and stuff generally. I don't get why the firebox, though, it's not flush with the bottom part of the chassis. But the back is probably one of the better parts of this. Pretty good. But then we run into the front, which is pretty bad, I would say, especially compared to what we have seen with the new Gordon. So, pros, his face isn't flat. It's not going straight to the front. He's got some room there. But cons is basically everything else. His running board does not dip down enough compared to his AG model. He doesn't have a green front leading bogey. He just needs one. This is AG. He doesn't even have 4 to represent. Then this here isn't representing the red, or not the red, like the red and green lining cylinders, which he doesn't technically need because all of his wheels don't have any side rods, but they're still represented on his model. But my biggest problems lie with it here on the face. It's pretty bad. Not much else to say about that. The face is nothing like the face that it shows up here, which is just Gordon's face, but this doesn't look how Henry would ever act in any version of the show. He's either the worst, like I love him being the worst, or he's worried, which I don't have a problem with him being worried, but he's never excited, fast, exuberant, whatever. He's just not that. And while I'm looking at it here, I just noticed this. They don't bring his boiler support in to the point of these frames, and they don't make the I honestly can't remember what they're called. Green. They don't. It's not green, which I would assume they would be green if he had this, like they have on the new one. But it's a little sad. How hard is it? Oh, one more thing that I just noticed right before I was about to close off. The lining doesn't go on to here. Kind of bothers me. It's represented here. On the topic of the lining, mine is pretty good, standard AG quality. This side has some paint spillage on the cylinder at the top here, and here, and then some general chips and stuff. But besides that, really the only problem is front. Put him together with his tender, he looks mighty fine, if I do say so. And besides those points, I think this is where I will end off this portion of the review, and we will move into the disassembly. Alright, so now we're on to the disassembly of it. People don't tend to show the disassembly, but I think it's a pretty important part to it, so people can actually see what parts are removable, what parts are one-time snap, and what parts are one-time snap but can still be unsnapped if you try hard enough. So what you first have to do is unscrew these triangle screws. If you put enough pressure, the Phillips head works fine. You do not need a triangle screwdriver. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes on like specific screws. And say it's the same for any new screws, because you're kind of just stripping your own screw into it fitting a Phillips head. Put that over there. And I have this propped up on a roll of filament, so I'm trying to make sure I don't move the paper away from it. Alright, here are all the tender, well, almost all, the tender parts. I will take this screw, put the other one. So we got the wheels, we got the chassis block, and this I will teach you guys right now. So what you're going to need is a screwdriver a pair of scissors about this big. I use these for general purposes. Probably use something else, but what you do is you just get her in there. Alright, and make sure it doesn't clip back in. I hope you guys can see this because I cannot look through the viewfinder while I do this. It is very obscured. Alright, so if you couldn't see that, you take these two pegs and you grab a scissor and you pull them out, and then all you have to do is push out like that. Then you have a coal load that is now separated. Here it is. You can put it back in fully, you can put it back in lightly. If you want more coal, you can do that. This is how it looks like with it off. There's holes in it. It wouldn't really look great, but you can use it to represent coal being filled up and then just plop in this when you're filming like run-by shots or what may have you. So you don't have to just destroy this piece. It can easily come out if you want to replace it with real coal or just a more realistic style of coal. And now on to my always least favorite part of the tender. These wheels, they're plastic, they roll terribly, and not a bad quality of plastic, I would say. Pretty good. A little bendage, nothing that other plastics don't have. But what happened to the metal? Come on, guys. There's so many minor upgrades that they could do to their things, and here in Canada they are $15, at least where I live in Canada. And like, you know, $15, guys, it's pretty cheap toy generally. Maybe, I mean, you're probably making enough profit on these where you can probably just keep them $15. and add the metal parts where you need, or get better quality control, which tends to just be a beginning of the range thing. But even Trackmaster 2 had pretty bad quality control, where a train would just come out of the box and not work. I never had that problem. I've never had any quality control problems, to be honest, with the Trackmaster 2 Mattel Tomy, or not Mattel Tomy, Mattel Trackmaster stuff, but it still has happened. It's just not happened to me. Alright, now on to Henry, which is honestly the least complicated one, because he has like 2 parts to him to disassemble, but we have him. I'm not going to show you how to put the batteries in this. We all know. We all know how. And I can show you where you put the batteries, but I just don't have batteries on me right now, and I will be getting some when I do the running session at the end. But unscrew it at the bottom here. You can take it out. This is just the standard green chassis. I have 3 of these because I also have a Percy, but or I have 2 Percys. But this is the standard green. Batteries go in here, flat end here, positive end here, positive end here, negative end here. Flat ends are negative ends, I believe. But here's the main attraction. These are pretty light without the weight, without the battery motor in them, but what do you expect? It is all plastic. That is no different in any other version of Thomas. They're always light. Though I do gotta say, Mattel's plastic is a little worse than what they had before. Generally, mostly in like their like infrastructure risers and such. But yeah, you gotta unscrew this. This one's a little peskier. Oh my god, get out! All right, I think no. If I screw this, I swear to God. Alright, here we go. So, these parts come out, and so does this. Oh boy, I hate doing this one on the inside. It's a pretty tight fit for my big old screwdriver. I've had this, I think this screwdriver is older than me. I hope the kind of live commentary thing, I will cut out a ton of the hems and haws, but I hope it's better than the scripted version where I'm talking quietly. I think I can be a little bit more lively when I'm actually doing it, and I'm like very interested in what I'm talking about. Yeah. Alright, so this is all the pieces. It's not a lot. I know the new ones you can unscrew the face, I think, and on most of them, at least the face. But I'm pretty sure, like Duck, you can detach the top part of him and the handrails and maybe even the cab. But this is him all disassembled. This is the whistle and dome feature. I will just be taking the whistle and dome from this and probably putting the whistle here and the dome where the whistle is when I turn this into a CGI Henry. But compared to the Tender, there isn't really much to talk about. It's just really what you see on the outside, minus some black and the back coupling. Which, by the way, back couplings on these things, I hate them for how short they are, and also the fact that they made these longer, but they got rid of the back couplings on all the other toys, or on all the other bits of rolling stock. I feel there might be a little crossover there, and it could be cheaper. Henry, with the chassis, we gotta do that too. These chassis kind of piss me off to put them on. It's kind of missed the clip system, but it's not god awful or anything like that. It's pretty simple, especially to take it off. The taking off part, you're not worried about breaking anything. It's quite literally just screw, and then it pops off. So here is Henry all rebuilt. Oh, fucking hell. Alright, here's Henry, all rebuilt. Pretty good. Classics Thomas for scale with Minecraft Ninjago Kai. And the, let's hope this fits the box. Alright, we will move him out of the way as you're not relevant right now. Let's move this guy a bit. Center him in the frame, and ta-da! Alright. That guy in focus. Okay. I'm going to do my final thoughts here, and then we will move on to the running session. If you guys don't care for the running sessions, tell me, because I hate filming them. But face, very bad. I'm not even sure if mine is misprinted since it's so wacky. Tender, run-of-the-mill, but it works for what it's meant to represent, and these tenders are very good sized for really on any scale of them that you're doing. They're just the same height as the Tomy ones, or as the Tomy engines, I think. They're not too long, so it's good for, like, I don't know, a James, if you want like a shorter James tender. They don't look too cartoony if you just add some stuff here and get rid of the buffers, but they've all had buffers in some way, shape, or form for a long time. And besides that, there is Henry.
That is it for this video. So on that note, there is nothing much more for me to say besides anything that you may not like about this compared to last time, mention it. I am trying to work on my audio solution since I noticed the audio is a lot worse on the microphone from my phone versus the microphone from my headset, so I'll get an adapter for that. But besides that, my next video will hopefully be out on Sunday, and the next video after that should be out on the next Sunday if everything goes according to plan. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.